Broadly speaking, Alex, Republicans see these Ivy League institutions, these elite colleges, as an ideal foil for them to try to press their message, politically speaking.
Yeah, and so in such charming rhetoric, they are dancing on somebody's grave. But let's make the point, she is not leaving the campus. She is going to remain as a professor of government as well as African American studies.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main
Welcome back to the Ruthless Friday program, a big 2024. We've got a lot going on. That was the top of the program, which everybody's talking about, Claudine Gay in the Harvard situation. I mean, such a perfect conglomeration of things to talk about.
And I think it's almost like a watershed moment. I think, huge congratulations, Chris Rufo, conservatives in general, because this is a long time
coming.
Free Beacon. And the Free Beacon, who did an absolutely amazing job, exposing all of this side by side. So it was plain as day, all the horrible things that she had done, these examples of plagiarism. But what is very, very key here is a couple things. Number one, it shows all of these old games that the left had of being like, oh, well, you're a racist if you don't agree. That's not working anymore, right? And number two, the left is exposing themselves as being like, listen, we need DEI so much, we will overlook the president of Harvard committing 40 acts of plagiarism.
Yeah.
So it laid the whole game bare.
The other side that it laid bare, I think, Smug, is that when journalists don't want to do their jobs and prevent the American public from knowing the facts of the matters at hand, and then those facts do come out, it's a right-wing smear job.
That's it.
And we learned that with the Hunter Biden laptop.
Totally.
Right? And we're learning it here again with this story. It's like, the unfortunate thing for the media is that other people decided to do their job for them. And so the American people learned what a lunatic this person was.
And that's the thing, the New York Times characterized it as, they said, this was an ongoing, attack from the Free Beacon. Attack? Investigative journalism is now an attack.
And no point questioning the facts at hand.
None.
Right?
None. That's
right.
a great point.
Right.
So,
Well,
the facts stand.
I want to get into the coverage in a minute. Look, for those of you just getting caught up to speed on all of this, Claudine Gay was one of 3 professors that went in front of a House committee that testified, all with, I think, the same PR consultant, with less than, shall we say, satisfactory answers about how they handled the Hamas attack on Israel and the ongoing protests on their campus and everything else. And that obviously raised the scrutiny of these people and asked, honestly, for the first time in dozens of years that I can remember, show a little light on the old higher education campus.
Yeah.
And made them answer some real questions. And within 3 days, the gal who was running Penn had to resign. Mm-hmm. She lost $100 million for the university because of a couple of huge benefactors that took great offense. And then the focus became on Claudine Gay, which, frankly, there's not a lot of us outside of the Ivy Leagues who spent a lot of time thinking about Claudine Gay.
No.
So once she and her profile was raised, people started talking about it and thinking about it. And the Free Beacon started breaking these stories about how, I think she had 11 or something like that published works, which typically you need hundreds.
And books and...
Yeah, and all kinds of stuff. She had 11, and there's a substantial number that were plagiarized in some form or fashion. And so that became a thing. And then there was a second dump of things. And what was so fascinating to me is that the left instinctively just defended it.
Yep.
Defended it. Right? I mean, we're talking about, there's a current president of the United States whose initial campaign run in 1988 was foiled because of an allegation of plagiarism, which happened to be true. But it was enough to stop anybody's career, no matter what you were, certainly in higher education. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it was applied to Claudine Gay. So people started asking some questions. And when those questions began to be to the fore, where people were taking a look at this stuff, there was no defense for any of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really something because, again, I think there is a shift in, folks online have been describing this as like a vibe shift. Something is changing out there. Something's changing in the water where it used to be like Harvard did. They said, oh, well, these are like small things, but we agree that our first black woman who has led Harvard University is well qualified for the job. Where they were just saying, and this was a Harvard Crimson as well, the publication at Harvard said, yeah, these are egregious examples of plagiarism. And the administration, which is just so committed to this DEI nonsense, which has just captured the left, was like, no.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah,
for the
it's
layman.
insidious belief system that has completely captured the left. And I think this unmasks it, where they had placed the value of DEI, over Harvard University having any kind of academic honesty.
Can I just make an observation about all that? So the undergirdings of DEI, or what higher education has done over the last 20 years, is that they are trying to support minority interests. They're trying to support the black community, the Hispanic community, not so much the Asian community.
Oh, absolutely not.
Obviously. But that's what they say. I don't think they give two shits.
None.
About any of that, because what it boils down to is ideology.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of black conservatives that I see Harvard falling all over themselves to support.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with the fact that Claudine Gay was African-American, is African-American. It has everything to do with the fact that she was a left-wing lunatic that purported out sort of their ideology upon the university and everything else. And so when you get their outrage in trying to just sort of glance off, as you said, like they use every time, it's racist, it's sexist, it's this, that, and the other thing. Like those are their primary defenses, but it's never about gender and it's never really about race. Mm-hmm. What it's about is the ideology.
Totally. And that's exactly it. And I think that is central to understanding this whole situation. This is an example of what you see in like failed third world banana republics, where it's all about loyalty to the party is paramount. That's more important than anything you can accomplish. That's more important than anything you bring to the table, anything you've ever done in your life. The number one trait that they're looking for is loyalty to the party. And that's DEI right now. Like the ideology of the left is completely summed up in DEI.
It goes back to what you always say, Smug. It's not about hypocrisy. It's about hierarchy.
Exactly.
And despite the evidence that obviously this woman had plagiarized a bunch of stuff, what was the reaction that we saw? It wasn't, okay, she obviously made a big mistake and something that would get somebody kicked out of Harvard if they were a student. It was no. These attacks are misogyny. These attacks are racism. And they supported her, right?
And I always think about this from the vantage point of like the so-called guardians of higher education or the guardians of information and all of these things, journos or former Ivy Leaguers. And then they use all of this, as we'll get into, as like, well, the right did this. Mm-hmm. The conservative right did this and made this happen. Imagine blowing past the fact that you did no due diligence on the president of Harvard University. Imagine just making a hire of Claudine Gay, not knowing that like half the stuff she's written has been plagiarized from somebody else, and then blaming somebody else for pointing it out.
Right.
That's a hell of a thing.
That's the thing, is the commitment to this ideology is that deep.
It comes at the cost of everything else.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's not enough to just say, well, she's the first woman of color or any of these sort of things, and look at those as maybe being attributes, right? It also causes them in the process to overlook the deficiencies of her as an academic.
100%.
You know what I mean?
But
that is the insidious nature of this affirmative action, as Clarence Thomas has rightly pointed out for decades, right? Is it like it creates this inferiority complex, in accomplished Black and brown people who succeed in our country, where like people think they get there because of some affirmative action.
And you know what? That's great that you brought it up, because I think that's such a great example. Is we recently had this wonderful Supreme Court strike down affirmative action, specifically within the framework of universities. And Clarence Thomas wrote so wonderfully on this in the decision. And it is critical to understand this because the left attacks him so viciously, because I think he's a shining example. Someone who literally was able to hold every possession they had in life in a brown paper bag, becoming a Supreme Court justice. That completely destroys their belief that no Black American in America can succeed without DEI in place.
Yeah.
That shatters it.
But I want to extrapolate before we move on. I do want to extrapolate on that a little bit because, again, it is not about race. Democrats and liberals and progressives in this country always say it comes back to trying to support these communities. But when you get the first Supreme Court justice, or not the first Supreme Court justice, but a Supreme Court justice entering who would be the only Black justice on the court, in Clarence Thomas, they tried to kill the nomination.
Yep.
When Miguel Estrada would have become the first D.C. Circuit Court judge of Hispanic descent, they've said for years that is just a critical, important representation that's just underrepresented. And then they filibustered and killed it. And their bigger fear was the fact that he could be the first Hispanic on the Supreme Court.
And again, none of this is speculation. It all came out in written emails that they were concerned that he might be the first Hispanic on the United States Supreme Court. And so they killed him for that reason, because he was a constitutional conservative.
Yeah. And so when you put this in the context that you guys are talking about, where it's like, I don't know, sure, she's a historic figure in that she was the first Black president of Harvard University, and you come to find out it was an ill-advised appointment to begin with.
Yeah.
It wasn't really about that.
It's more about buying into that hierarchy.
Yep.
Like if you can be all of those things, but only if you play in the system in which we have created for control.
Exactly. And it's the critical first layer of defense for the progressive left and a bunch of illogical ideas that don't make sense in this country.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of really well-meaning Americans out there that don't want to get on the wrong side of the discussion about who's a racist.
Yep.
Right.
They'd rather avoid it altogether.
So Bill Ackman had this wonderful tweet, and like now, on Twitter you can have like unlimited characters. You could write an essay, and Bill Ackman had this incredibly well-written explanation of essentially what all has transpired, where he said that, I first saw the day after this terrorist attack that at Harvard it becomes essentially a celebration of Hamas. And I go and I visit and I talk to students, I talk to alumni, and they say that there's this thing called DEI, which essentially tries to pit every human being into whether you are an oppressor or the oppressed. Mm-hmm. And in this case, Jews were considered oppressors. And so the idea is pushed by professors, administrators, everyone on campus that like, hey, Jews are the bad guys here. This is how we're going to frame our thinking on this. And he was stunned. And I think that's a huge revelation. When he writes this, the vast majority of Americans, if you think about their info stream, where they get their information from, they'll think that CNN or whatever is telling them the truth, that like, Taylor Lorenz will show up and be like, yeah, well, this is white supremacy or whatever. Right. And he was shocked once he actually saw what's going on in academia. This has been going on for a while now.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot on the program. I mean, it's been going on forever, but now you're seeing it play out in Technicolor. Here, let's get to the coverage of this bad boy.
I love this.
Because this is it's so good.
Bye, oh, bye.
Bye, oh, boy. So you saw first of all, the AP, which basically was like a Republican's pounce. Mm-hmm. It wasn't about Claudine Gay and plagiarism. It wasn't Claudine Gay and, not defending Jewish students on campus. It wasn't anything about that. It was about Republicans and conservatives in particular, just sort of focusing on ousting this lady. But here's a paragraph, which is just fantastic. They single out our friend Chris Rufo of the program.
Great friend.
Which, as you know, he's been on here a couple of times, and he's talked a lot about all of the various perversions that we're getting in secondary education and higher education, and trying to out all of that. So he's become a little bit of a household name amongst the left, who just completely hates this guy. So naturally, you plug him into a mainstream media outlet. Yeah. Chris Rufo, a conservative activist. By the way, he's not. He says himself he's not a conservative.
Yeah.
This is an issue that he seized upon because he sees unfairness in it. But he's not like a born and raised diehard conservative by any stretch of the imagination. Chris Russo, a conservative activist who helped orchestrate the effort, celebrated her departure as a win in his campaign against elite institutions of higher education. On X, formerly known as Twitter, he wrote, quote unquote, scalped, as if gay was a trophy of violence, invoking a gruesome practice. This is the best part. A gruesome practice taken up by white colonialists.
Ah, okay.
Who sought to eradicate Native Americans.
Think about that.
Where do you start?
I don't know where to start.
Where do you start?
Where do you start? I don't know. Did the people came over on the Mayflower, like they taught the Pawnee how to scalp?
They did.
Is that because I mean, look at the history of the United States, before the United States, and particularly like the Plains Native Americans, like they were scalping each other for a very long time. Yeah. We didn't invent it in the United States being colonialists.
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing.
It's just absurd. It's patently absurd.
And I think that's the thing is the very important takeaway from this situation is not that, okay, this is like dumb and ridiculous. Who could be the journalist who would write such a thing? It's that the institution of journalism has bought into DEI to the point that they are willing to openly lie and be like, guess who started scalping? Right. It was the white colonists who showed up.
One of the guys that we follow on Twitter had a very interesting spin on this. He wrote, this is John Hayward, and he tweeted, some critics spoke of a conservative kamikaze attack on gay, referring to a tactic from World War II in which Allied naval forces would deliberately ram their ships into Japanese planes.
Yeah. And I think that's telling, because what is very critical to this ideology of DEI and to the left writ large right now is do not believe your lying eyes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You will either eat what we are serving you. You have to believe wholeheartedly into this ideology or we will cancel you. Where they can say such obvious, blatant lies as like white colonists showed up and started scalping people. And they put that in for a very specific reason, is because they want to keep reframing a situation where the president of Harvard was committing plagiarism on a massive scale. Mm-hmm. Of Harvard, of all things,
and it's also
they want to turn into like, oh, this is about race.
It also and it's just proof that all of these journalists are activists, but they've mastered this tactic, and it goes back to Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. This is the thing that anything that you see on the left, and I recommend you read Rules for Radicals because Saul Alinsky literally wrote the playbook for all of this. But you see it in journalism all the time now, and that is when you see a conservative viewpoint, what they do is they try to isolate one person and rise them above, and then attack their character to undermine a point that's obviously true.
Yep.
And that's what they've done with Chris Rufo. They turned him into a fucking character out of Blood Meridian. Yeah. Because they can't defend what Claudine Gay did.
No, to say nothing of the actual reason why she's out.
Right.
Right?
No. We're gonna frame the opposition, freeze it, and we're going to assassinate their character. Yep. And that's him, right? Instead of now we're not even talking about the thing that happened.
Politico reports nightly reports. They have a nightly report. Politico nightly reports on the right's coordinated campaign that helped engineer the departure of the head of the most influential university in the world.
That's the thing is
the right's coordinated campaign. Like, I don't know, did the right write her essays? Because that would be a hell of a story.
That's the thing is, I applaud Politico Nightly. I know they're friends of Ashbrook's. They have revealed the truth that conservatives created a time machine, and they went back and they told Claudine Gay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to plagiarize this. You're going to plagiarize this.
Yeah.
This is what we need to happen.
Yeah, like with Joy Reid, we took the time-traveling machine to hack Joy Reid's blog and put all that homophobic stuff on there.
Yeah, well, we did that too. That was hacking.
Yeah, it was
She's
hacked.
still on TV, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
As is Claudine Gay's sister, I would point out.
Well, so I think we should play this clip just because our entertainment purposes only. Can we go to clip 1?
It's really an attack on academic freedom. It's an attack on people who are pluralists and believe that you should bring people from all over the world together of diverse backgrounds, and that you actually have more scholarly rigor and more value can be brought by having people from different backgrounds. This is an attack on diversity. This is an attack on multiculturalism and on many of the values that a lot of us hold dear. And in fact, anybody really who is around my age in their 30s who went to any major public university or private university in this country, these are values that are very important. And I think that's why these presidents are under attack. Yeah. That's why Claudine Gay was under attack. The fact that she's a black woman and the first person who is a black American to lead Harvard only added to their thirst to dethrone her. And, those attacks, I don't have to say that they're racist, because you can hear and see the racism in the attacks when people like Vivek Ramaswamy say, okay, this is a problem about diversity in hiring. I mean, this is racism as well. So there's a lot of different layers here, but I don't want to miss the attacks on academic freedom.
Vivek's the racist.
Yeah. Noted white supremacist Vivek Ramaswamy.
It's very clear. I mean, here's the thing is...
it's Vivek.
So does that individual have any kind of a connection to the president of Harvard?
Yeah.
Oh, it turns out, sister.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I just want
to... And speaking as though she's a dispassionate observer of this whole process, by the way.
It's just commenting. I want to know where From the River to the Sea fits into the multiculturalism of our country. Where does that fit in? Advocating for the genocide of Jewish people. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with what multiculturalism is.
Yeah, it seems like there's some...
it's a gray area. Let me look at the student handbook.
Yes, except those people. And those pesky Asians.
The idea, there's only one black person who's able to be the president of Harvard University, and it happens to be the one who plagiarized everything she ever wrote. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
there are a lot of black people who work there.
Again, I turn back to what Clarence Thomas wrote in the decision ending affirmative action on campuses, where this is what ends up happening, is you end up with an individual who had no business attending Harvard University, let alone running it, right? Where the decision of why they are placed in that position has nothing to do with their capability to execute the job, nothing to do with the strengths and the resume that they bring to executing that job. It has everything to do with they tick the boxes that the party is looking for the ideology that they need executed.
Yeah.
That's it, completely. It lays bare when she's like, well, you see, this has to do with racism. Can you please discuss the issue, which is plagiarism? She will not talk whatsoever about, there are clear-cut examples, word for word, of other people's scholarly writings being stolen by this individual. Word for word, paragraphs. We're talking, this is not like, a few words. This is entire paragraphs are lifted and then lifted again in the footnotes. Like, she's using plagiarism to cite her plagiarism, right? There was no discussion of that. It was like, well, you know what? This has to be racism. And again, it does not hit the same way it used to. People are no longer falling for this bullshit.
Let's talk about plagiarism, because this is the AP. Graphic 3, please, if you wouldn't mind, Wolf. This is the actual headline here of the AP. Harvard's president's resignation highlights new conservative weapon against colleges. Plagiarism.
Yep. Oh, shit.
Well, it's certainly been a weapon the colleges have used against their students for a long time, hasn't it not?
Yeah.
Now it's conservatives. I didn't know we invented it. Frankly, I feel pretty proud about it.
Yeah, it's a conservative's weapon against breathing. Oxygen.
Yeah.
I thought this was like the prerequisite.
So after that headline ran and everybody just blasted the AP for an entire day, they actually changed their headline. Did you guys know that?
No, I didn't.
They actually changed their headline. The headline on the story now reads, "Plagiarism charges downed Harvard's president, period." And then a conservative attack helped fan the outrage.
Okay.
They can't help themselves.
And then
even though one of the adults at the organization has corrected
they did a stealth edit of the article where they said that white colonists showed up and started scalping people, where the article now reads on Twitter, he wrote, "Scalp," this is referring to Rufo, "scalped as if gay was a trophy of violence, invoking a gruesome practice taken up by white colonists who sought to eradicate Native Americans and also some Native American tribes." And also some Native, there were some instances.
There were some instances.
Well, I don't think we've given it enough weight for our listeners who might not be familiar in the before time, like that. This again, I'm not telling you guys anything you guys don't know, but this is the Associated Press.
Yeah, we didn't used to do that.
This used to be the one place where you could just read the Wire report, and it would give you the facts as they are.
You could disagree with the headline and lead.
Sure.
In terms of your framing of the story. Mm-hmm. But the context was basically here are the facts as they lay out from two sides of a story.
You're supposed to be able to click on Associated Press and read it like it's the weather report. Like they're telling you whether it's going to be the highs and lows of the day and the rain. You know, something else that Rufo tweeted, which I thought was very, very funny. He tweeted this earlier today, and he found an old tweet from the Associated Press, which is about Barclays boss Diamond quits with immediate effect. Latest scalp of the price-fixing scandal. This is from 2012. Rufo's like, oh no, the AP is a genocidal institution that wants to eradicate Native Americans because they use the word scalp.
Oh, it's so good.
There's always a tweet.
There is.
And that will continue. We got to get on with the rest of the show. We're going to follow this, though, because I guarantee it's not the last.
Just the beginning.
Twist and
just
turn
the beginning
in this story. We got a lot for you on this show, including we're actually just sitting here waiting for these Epstein files to be unveiled. We tried to wait as long as we could to do this. They're not coming out yet. I have a feeling they're trying to avoid the Ruthless Variety program.
Mm-hmm. And again, I would like to point out, and this is extremely critical, especially for folks who don't follow me on Twitter, Senate Democrats, Dick Durbin, Sheldon Whitehouse, stopped and blocked Senator Marsha Blackburn from getting this information about Epstein flight logs, any information that they have unsealed.
Yeah.
They have done everything they can. Senate Democrats have done everything they can to stop Marsha Blackburn from unsealing all the information we have on Jeffrey Epstein. And again, Dick Durbin, Sheldon Whitehouse, Senate Democrats have blocked her.
Can you
think about
imagine
that?
Taking that
Think
position?
about that. That's got the thing is that like if they are so committed to such an insane position, such an indefensible position, what are they hiding? What are they hiding? It's got to be crazy.
Oh, it's completely insane. I want to thank everybody for their Christmas business. People did a lot of business on the Ruthless Variety program, and I was treated and delighted to see all of the traffic on X over the last 3 weeks of people opening their gifts and getting Ruthless gear.
Yeah. I mean, it is great seeing
all
that.
around the world, too. People were sending us pictures from all their various vacations, from different places. I mean, it was a delightful thing, wasn't it? And you hand-stitched all of it, old man.
That was great work.
Yeah, myself.
It has to be just sort of a comforting and sort of rewarding feeling to know that your hand...
It makes all the blisters worth it.
He doesn't even use a sewing machine. It is literally just
a thimble.
A thimble.
A thimble and...
Yeah. Hand stitch.
Yeah.
Cross stitch, though, so it's well done.
Yeah.
You have confidence in it.
I do. I stand behind my work.
Yeah, you stand behind it. We're glad that you did all of that. All right, so as we do on Thursdays, and we're getting closer to the Iowa caucus, folks, we like to do a little horse race activity, winners of the week. I'd be interested because we had a couple of weeks before we have to take a solid look at this. Where's everybody at? Ashbrook?
So obviously President Trump still maintains a commanding lead over the entire field in basically every single state, but I'm not picking him as my winner this week. I'm picking Nikki Haley.
Really?
Because despite the manufactured outrage about fake gaffes and everything else, her fundraising has only grown. Her momentum has not fallen off. And I think she could surprise people in Iowa. She has a very, very strong team on the field.
To be specific, she reported yesterday that they raised $24 million over the last quarter, which more than doubles her last report.
That's a lot of money.
That would indicate, particularly down the stretch, that you have some momentum.
And so she's got that on top of the fact that she has this gigantic field team from our
AFP.
friends at AFP in the state of Iowa, and I think she's going to surprise some people there. Maybe she's not going to finish ahead of of Ron DeSantis, who should win or finish a close second to Trump. But I mean, if she finishes close to him, it's huge.
You think Governor DeSantis has a shot at taking first in Iowa?
Well, I think he needs to. You know, President Trump is probably going to finish over 50. Anything under 50 is going to be a disappointment for somebody as strong as President Trump. But I think that if Nikki Haley comes even anywhere in a hair's breadth of second place with Ron DeSantis, that is real momentum heading into a state like New Hampshire, where she seems to be doing well and she has money to spend to put on TV. And by the way, the Trump campaign, we all know, is taking Iowa very seriously. They professionalize their campaign. They have something on the ground there that they didn't have.
So like, who are you picking as your winner? Because you're picking like 9 different people.
Yeah, he took Nikki.
Like,
I take Nikki Haley as the
now
winner.
he's talking about how Trump's doing great.
You're
Like
trying to stir
like
stuff.
how, like what's happening here?
I take
I thought we were gonna have an answer, not an essay.
I take Nikki Haley as the winner. You probably will take Jeb Bush, but I'll get to your. We'll wait for your opportunity.
Duncan, what do you got?
My winner of the week is the disgusting pedophiles who have still not been outed by these Epstein flight logs.
They have managed to delay the inevitable.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's
the
insane.
disgusting pedophiles.
Yeah. Congratulations, Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of remarkable. Like, I say that half joking, but like to Smug's point earlier, like if there was one thing in our society that I would think every single elected official in America could get behind, it would be this.
Imagine just ever thinking anything other than
Right, just like everybody has that sort of like glib thing about like sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, and it's like, how is this difficult? How is this seriously?
People shouldn't
like
see it.
Ashbrook's over here refreshing Pacer to try
I literally just did.
find filings, and the fact that we live in a system in which that is necessary, and that we don't know the fucking names of all these disgusting people and haven't known it forever.
But also, he's
insane.
He's doing Pacer because we have absolutely no confidence that the media will actually report it.
Exactly.
Like, we have to actually get it from the-
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's my broader point
Yeah.
is like, how is it that there aren't enterprising people who have figured out a way to get to these names? And it's like, yeah, we've known some of this
They're
stuff.
not trying too hard.
They're not trying that hard.
And I'll tell you what.
And what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Again, like it is extremely weird that there are people standing in the way. Like,
Sick.
why,
dude,
when Marsha Blackburn demands all this info be opened, unsealed for the public, you've got Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse being like, no. Like, there's no explanation.
All of this information, you would, if you worked for a major publication, wouldn't you think you'd be sprinting for the opportunity to
You
report
get a
on
million
this?
views.
I am telling you, nobody from the Associated Press has like filed paperwork with this court. It's Gateway Pundit, it's Mike Cernovich, it's conservatives who are trying to hold the powerful accountable, who are actually making sure that this
Like
stuff
people
is
who don't care
transparent.
where, like, the chips will fall where they may.
Right.
And so
Right?
that's
Which
my
used to be our press.
That used to be it.
And so that's my theory. Like, this is no basis in fact. This is just me being crazy. This could be satire. I think probably there's some like Democrat donors or something, people who give money to these organizations or
think?
whatever. I mean, it's got like, you know, we've already seen photos of like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton at like, you know, they had at their daughter's wedding, Epstein's right-hand woman. Like, there's a lot of weird shit going on there. And the fact that you've got like Democrat senators being like, no, block this info, something sketchy is happening there.
I don't know, man, but all I'm saying is it's now, what, like 6 p.m.? And maybe we'll all be proven wrong, and it'll come at 3 a.m, and the information will be out there, and no one will report on it. But like, I
They'll be
just
like,
think
the
it's
pilot
crazy.
of the plane was the first black pilot that Jeffrey Epstein hired,
Yeah.
and conservatives are attacking
him. We're trying to take scalps from pedophiles.
There's scalps being taken.
Yeah.
No question about it. All right, Smug, who's your winner?
I'd say the winner is the conservative movement. It is rare to see a time where everyone on our side, especially, you know, we've got this heated primary going on, everyone on our side working in concert, in unity. And what happens? We defeat these awful lizard people who have put this system in place. DEI, which is 100% just trying to destroy our country, which was founded on building things and accomplishing things and creating amazing things for all of humanity, DEI is essentially just like, we want to take away any purpose, any accomplishment from individuals. And this week with Claudine Gay, despite the entire DEI infrastructure behind her getting sunk,
I actually love this.
Huge win.
I love this as your pick, dude, because I think you're absolutely right. Like, this is sort of a watershed moment in which like the left with DEI came back like guns blazing on the entire thing and lost the argument. And that's a thing that hasn't like happened a lot.
No,
it really hasn't.
It hasn't.
This is the first time that I think reason won the day. I don't know if that's sustainable because, as you always say, it's about hierarchy, not hypocrisy.
We have our own crazy shit going on, no question about it. On the conservative side, but what you've got, and I think the example that you laid out, is you have the conservative ecosystem functioning, in this case, as what we used to rely on by a free press.
Yes.
And the conservative ecosystem, I mean, that's why they get away with like the conservative pounce thing, because it's true, but it's only true because they didn't do their job in the first place.
Right.
But I think that says something, because if you are as a movement consistently placing yourself at the center of the American interest, that's only good from an electoral politics standpoint. That's what we've seen here. We've seen it on a number of occasions. We got our own issues, no question about it. But I think more and more you're seeing this divorce from the established, quote unquote, establishment or quote unquote institutions around this country from the left. And like you're seeing all of these things kind of focus on protecting their own. Whereas the American people, and as long as you're in a democracy, which, you know, hopefully we're still in, it matters when you capture the hearts and souls of the majority of the Americans. And that's where we're at.
And that's what, so again, going back to the whole thing that Ackman wrote, that's what really got my attention, is when he brought up that singular point of how he was like, after the George Floyd thing in 2020, if you disagreed with DEI, you were labeled a racist, and that hurts your job prospects, your peer groups, you are ostracized. That's not the case anymore. Everyone sees this absurd, ridiculous system for what it is when you have clear-cut facts in front of you that, hey, this person plagiarized, right? And then you see the DEI infrastructure come in and say like, no, don't trust your lying eyes. This is actually racism. Now it's not going to work the same way it did. That's such a huge win, and all the credit to the conservative movement, Chris Rufo. We got to keep pushing, because this is, and I pointed this out on Twitter. You saw Chinese outlets, Chinese government-controlled media outlets, coming to the defense of the Harvard president today.
Oh,
Why
I'm
is
shocked.
that? Because they know DEI is how you destroy America from the within. That's why.
That's right. And do you guys remember the last time conservatives were on the march? They were working together from the bottom up and rising to the occasion. It was 2014 and it was 2015, and lo and behold, Donald Trump took advantage of it and became president of the United States.
Yeah.
It's almost like history is repeating itself.
We got to keep that energy going forward. Keep it going.
Well, my winner of the week, and if you haven't seen this, you should. It's all over X or whatever platform you want to see. Ramaswamy. He was asked a question by a Washington Post reporter that was clearly designed to sort of cast him as hilariously some kind of a racist, where he just absolutely clear-cut the question. And this is Vivek at his absolute finest, in my view. It's the reason why we fell in love with him early and had him on the program early and said he was going to make noise in a presidential election where he had less than 1% name ID and no money. And he ultimately became all of that. We've had a lot of criticism on this program about what he's done with all of that. But at his core, his ability to navigate the fallacy of the left, particularly as it intersects with the mainstream media, is unmatched.
Yeah, it's a clinic, absolute clinic.
The guy does as good a job as there's anybody out there.
Yeah.
And I think for people who are looking for moments down the stretch, this was a moment for him. Now, it may not make a lick of difference. He's getting absolutely crushed in both Iowa and New Hampshire. I don't think he's a contender for the nomination. I do think that he is going to be a powerful voice for a conservative movement moving forward. I think he's made a name for himself, and I think this whole experience, I don't know. I mean, look, we've been doing this a long time, and there are a lot of really smart, well-intentioned people who the first time they get into politics, they get outside of their 40s where they're not comfortable, and they're reacting to a stimulus that's not their true self. I'm not saying that's what's happened to Vivek.
I am.
Yeah,
I am.
Maybe it is. But when you get back to the guy who wrote Woke Inc.,
Yeah.
and you get back to the guy who's just started on the scene, that's the guy that we saw last week talking to that Washington Post reporter, and that's somebody who can make a serious difference for the movement going forward.
So to be clear, your winner for the week?
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy campaign, you clip that, you put that on Twitter. Josh Holmes.
Go right ahead.
Go right ahead.
He earned it. He earned it.
Everything I've ever
Can I have
said
a
has
re-
been recorded, by the way.
I will do a small retort. I 100% agree with you, and I do think he's going to be a voice in the future. It's the reason why I picked him as our rookie of the year.
Yeah, you did. You did.
You know, despite all of the criticism I've had for the guy, I just hope he's an authentic voice, not just a voice. I hope he's an authentic voice. I've read so much of what he's written, and I love the way he writes. And I love the way that he argues and the way that he clarifies things, especially when he's fighting the media here, is a very powerful tool for the conservative movement. Yeah. But a lot of the stuff that he says, not in this case in which you cited, but a lot of the stuff that he says is 180 degrees the opposite of what he said a year ago.
Well, he dunked on this journal so hard. And that's why you don't hear Ashbrook saying anything. He's like, "Oh, my journal buddies." He dunked on
I thought it was great. He's actually. Do you know where he's
He's
from?
like, "My journal buddies."
Do you know
talking my journal buddies?
He's from Cincinnati.
We're gonna play the
You don't even know that. You don't even care. He's from the middle of
Ohio
America.
card.
He's not from the East Coast.
Despite being born in
like
such
you.
a horrible place.
Family
Look at it
friends.
again.
Yeah.
Vivek made it happen.
Family friends, right?
He's a
Smash?
hero.
Oh, I love it. All right, so those are our winners of the week. Clip them, do whatever you want.
I don't think there's going to be any pedophiles that clip what I said. But
You don't think so? No. You don't think? I'm not going to say name. I'm just gonna, we're not interested in being sued. We have an Ombudsman Report.
Oh.
McDaniel.
What's that about?
Well, he's raised his head. We were talking about during one of the end of the year specials, the largest animal that you could kill. It was a question and answer.
Oh yeah.
Portion, and we went through. We talked about. We had two answers that came from the blue whale.
Yeah. Am I
And-
being attacked here?
Well, there was some conjecture about whether or not you could actually plug the hole because there's in fact two holes. But here's the Ombudsman Report. Ruthless is right. Long story short, some know-it-all minion pointed out that the blue whale has two blowholes, and per this minion's logic, Duncan and Smug's strategy of blocking the blowhole wouldn't succeed.
So for folks who are on YouTube, everyone should watch on YouTube because you get to see this graphic. So we have an image of the, quote, two blowholes that the blue whale has, which is essentially like the two nostrils on your nose. This thing essentially, it just looks like a nose, right? Your two nostrils. So it's not like you couldn't just put 1 foot in each.
Right.
So like McDaniel, again, attacking the conservative movement here. Because what we're trying to do is stop a monster animal.
Right.
It would work. Me and Duncan are right.
Let me just let me
1 foot in each.
Hey guys, let's take a step back here because you copied off of me like a
I came
year
up with this
ago.
idea.
A year ago, I
Of the
said
blowhole.
a year ago I said that you should plug the blowhole of the whales if you wanted to stop them. Those are very, very big nostrils, and it would take more than a foot.
No, dude, a leg in each.
It's going to take
does
Duncan.
it.
It's going to take Duncan up to his waist. It's going to take Smug up to your waist. And then it takes care of the problem.
Dude, a leg in each. A leg in each.
It's
Let's say we
bigger
get-
than a
let's say
leg
we
in
get
each.
90%
Have you ever
of the
seen one of these
oxygen.
animals? Have you ever
I'll
seen
put
one of these
both-
animals?
I have seen one, and they're horrible. They're monsters. They should all be killed.
I'll put both my legs in one nostril, and then I'll wrap myself around and put my head in the other nostril.
Look at that.
Like Gumby.
Yeah.
Well, they say
could do that.
The only
Yeah.
issue here is
It
that they
works.
can expel air at a rate around 372 miles.
They can't
Yeah.
do shit, bro.
I mean, they could send you out like
Not
a cannon.
when they're getting owned like this.
Well, I'm not. I don't have like a pepper shaker in there, and I'm not making them sneeze.
yeah.
No, they'll just
know?
be down with it.
Yeah.
They'll just be down with it.
Well, they'll try to
succumb.
breach. They'll try to breach.
Well, I think humans can sneeze at like 200 miles an hour, right? But if
Yeah.
you're strangling somebody, they're not firing out 200 mile an hour like winds to stop you. This is a big whale.
Plus-
coming to the defense of these horrible fucking monsters.
Plus, Smug and I are smart. What we're gonna do, is we're gonna wait for him to crest and blow out the blowhole.
Yep.
And so he's out of oxygen.
Yep.
The lungs are empty.
Yep.
And then we climb on in.
There
the
it is.
nostrils.
There it is.
I noticed we there.
Yeah.
At the risk of being a little impolitic, can we get that graphic up one more time? Graphic 7. There's the 2 holes. If the 2 of you are
This
are
is my
active
point.
Well,
in
no,
this-
one guy.
Well, no, I mean,
one
He's
guy in
just
each
there
hole.
for emotional support.
but is this like a menagerie?
No, I look.
One guy in each
You're
hole.
Eiffel Tower, the fucking.
This is a family program.
Thank you, Smug. That is
I'm
precisely.
high-fiving Duncan. This whale is toast.
Jesus.
One guy in each hole.
There's a.
We are censoring.
This is what happens.
No!
An
This
ombudsman
stays.
report. Stop
Wolf,
trying to
if you
correct
cut
us.
this, you're dead. That is exactly what I wanted out of it. I appreciate you following through. All right. There was and this goes in your bailiwick, Duncan, because you're the only one weird enough to deal with it. House members to receive a classified UFO briefing. It's according to Axios. Members of the House Oversight Committee will receive a classified briefing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, better known as UFOs.
UAPs as well. Yeah.
Wait, what's the UAP stand for?
Well, that's the unidentified anomalous phenomena. That's like the new cool way of talking about UFOs.
Of course, we had to change.
There
the
is no
fucking
cool
name
way
of
to
it.
talk about.
Yeah.
No, there is no cool way. Congressional interest in the issue has grown in the recent years, with a small but vocal group of lawmakers in both parties pushing for greater transparency from the government on this issue. Bipartisan group of Oversight Committee members led by Tim Burchett. Oh, Tim Burchett's gotten involved in this. Well, maybe he can find a way to reduce entitlements while he's at it, because we were told that it was Kevin McCarthy's ouster that was going to get that done. But apparently now it's the UFOs. Anyway,
coming out.
anyway, he sent a letter to the Intel Community Inspector General Thomas Monheim in August requesting more details about UFOs. I'm glad he's focused on all the important stuff, by the way.
No, that's
Including any programs to reverse engineer them. This is hilarious. Reverse engineer the UFOs that we don't know about.
This is all fake. It's all fake. This is all fake. None of this shit's real.
This is amazing.
There's no such thing as UFOs. There's no aliens. God picked us alone. It's only us. It's only Earth. All this is just made up crazy shit. Like we have. Here's the thing: is if it was real, normal people would have seen them. The only people who are like, I saw a UFO. They're only the crazy people, and it's not because like aliens are like, okay, we will only choose the crazy people to approach to try to start diplomatic relations. You know, this guy who kills cats in Iowa. Lives in a basement. I think that's who we approach to reach out to humanity. No, dude, this is all fake.
That's the persuasion
all
we need.
made up.
You've bought into the government propaganda,
See? Like,
Smug. I'm really disappointed.
It's
in you.
all fake.
No, I recommend.
God picked us.
I recommend you watch the documentary Mirage Men, and you understand that the government has made a false flag program on UFOs for a long time.
This is
where
the false flag from the government.
No,
This is it.
Where they create fake stories about UFOs in order to make people look crazy, and then everybody points at them and says they're crazy, and then says UFOs aren't real. That's what you think because you bought
Lord
into the
knows
Fed
Tim
propaganda.
Burchett's going to get to the
Yeah,
bottom of this.
how does Tim Burchett reverse engineer the alien technology?
I don't know how he does that. I
To
don't
fly
think
it?
That's an important facet to focus on, though.
No. What I think
Has he released a statement? Is he like, I saw Independence Day, and like you can fly their ship, bro?
I told McCarthy he wouldn't listen.
He refused to fly
but
that
he was out of there.
Son of a bitch. Just listen to Bruce Willis. He knows what he's talking about.
I threw his ass out.
Okay, well, Bruce Willis was Armageddon. It was not Independence Day, but
It was Will Smith.
it was Will Smith.
Will Smith was the pilot, and
Yes.
his wife was the alien, the evil alien who ruined his life. I remember this shit.
Is that why he slapped the taste out of Chris Rock's mouth?
Oh.
All about the aliens.
That's
Now I
what
get
the
it.
feds
Now,
didn't
yeah.
want him to know. The feds didn't want him to know.
I think it's a psyop. I think putting out this classified briefing on UFOs is to distract people from the Epstein stuff.
That's it, dude. I
Oh.
guarantee that's it, dude.
Let
That's
me
my
just-
guess.
I'm gonna
That's
read-
my guess.
All
On that-
engineered by the aliens themselves.
On that note, I'm going to refresh Pacer.
Let's take a look.
Do we have an update?
What do you got?
Do you have an update?
Nothing. Nothing yet.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh my God!
No.
Of course.
No.
Would you mind explaining very quickly to our audience what Pacer is? Because we referred to it a couple of times, and I don't think people know.
So imagine an online card catalog. Everybody's been to a library and everybody's gone onto the card catalog. Imagine an online card catalog for all legal documents in the American federal legal system. You log into Pacer and you can go to any court. You can get any legal document to print it out. You have to pay a small fee.
Any legal document except for Epstein
Except
files.
for these.
Clearly,
Which are interesting.
very interesting.
All right, you guys want some PNAS news?
Wait, there's no PNAS news.
No, it's been a long time since we've talked about PNAS. It's a very reputable
This
organization.
is a family program. What the
Yeah,
hell?
no. Big PNAS is something you can't ignore. They're all over everything.
I'll remember this, Wolf.
No, everybody takes a look at this, and they can't avert their eyes. In fact, what they're doing here is focusing on a very important issue.
And this is the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, right? Is that PNAS?
Yeah, big PNAS.
Yeah.
So they're concerning themselves with the making of a AI news anchor and its implications. And as they say, as the writers and actors strike winds down and as governments consider appropriate worker protections, many continue to grapple with the potential impact of generative AI creative professionals. In particular, what is it and what is it capable of? And so, they go on to say, in collaboration with CNN, we attempted to create the opening of an AI-themed episode of The Whole Story, hosted by Anderson Cooper. They've gone through this whole thing. Of course, Anderson Cooper is involved in big PNAS.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, there it goes.
Jeez.
I didn't mean anything about that. You guys are sick. You guys are sick. The creation of an AI anchor consists of two main parts. Generate audio recording of the anchor script, and then they come up with the actual physical,
Yeah.
like what it looks like to be a trusted individual.
I'll say this. This is terrific. So, again, our folks on YouTube, you're seeing what the AI created. That looks like I guarantee.
Looks real.
I would have 100% thought that's like an anchor on like CNN or MSNBC.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who the hell's, anchoring the shows over there, but that looks just like a real news person.
Yeah.
And I support this so much.
Oh, dude, can you imagine?
So much. I was
With actual facts?
I was thinking about that when I was getting ready this morning of how the left is so screwed because you see what happened where all these journalists tried to save Claudine Gay and they wrote their articles being like, oh my God, if you're critical of her, it's white supremacy. All their jobs are going to be taken over by robots, right? Not even just writing that bullshit, but even reading the bullshit is now being taken over by robots. It's terrific. All of them are going to be unemployed and they're still doing this stupid garbage. You can't replace a human doing investigative journalism, actually uncovering some unknown truth. You can't replace that. There's no AI that can read a bunch of stuff on the internet and be like, oh, guess what I found out? These people are on the Epstein list. That requires an actual human to go and put together. But all these journos, they're all going to lose their jobs to robots. This is terrific news.
Can we get the graphic back up? Graphic 8. Duncan, what's her story? What do we think? Where does she come from? What's her deal?
Well, she spent a lot of years trying to lose her Midwestern accent because she grew up in the suburbs around Detroit, and she calls soda pop. And
This is so mean because it references real journalists.
yeah,
No, that's what the beauty of this. I'm going to
This is
Ashbrook
so
next.
mean.
yeah.
I'm going to Ashbrook next.
And she went to law school, and that got her in on the legal beat, and she was a correspondent, and now she does prime time in studio.
Can I disagree? So I want to disagree. She did not go to law school. She went to, Medil? MEDIL. I'm not a smart, I'm
McGill.
not an academic.
At Northwestern.
Yeah. That's the school
McGill.
of journalism
Yeah.
she went to.
Yeah. Okay.
And she's
Smash.
got a dog. She tweets photos of.
She talks about the dog a lot. Smug. That is a very good observation. Let's go to Smash.
I see somebody who is the only person standing between us and George Soros. And if it's a person, she's complaining that she isn't being paid enough.
Amazing.
And if it's a robot, they're not talking back to George Soros. They're just writing and saying what it is Soros wants us to hear.
Good take.
And so what scares me about AI journalism is the inputs to AI are coming from the powerful left-wing globalist idiots,
Which is why
who want to control America.
Which is why I've got Grok. Elon's working on it too.
No, it's a good counter.
It would be nice. It would be
Yeah.
nice if Americans and conservatives actually had their say in global affairs, but I'm concerned that we don't. And what I
like how he didn't attack the actual journo call it like journo things because all his journo buddies are like,
No,
I know you're
Smash.
talking about me.
what I like is that there's a human being who might
Look at that. He's
might
like, I
just
support
say,
human beings, and like the Washington Post strike.
might just say,
you know,
what the
Ashbrook
fuck?
was out there striking with them.
No. I think Smash brings up a good point.
So there has to be some kind
Smash-
of a roadblock between me and George Soros.
No, Smash brings up a good point. Is like, all right, so if AI takes all these journalists' jobs and instead they're just in the gulag, like ripping out copy for AI to read, it's not like it's going to get better just because it's a fake person reading it.
It won't even be the journos writing the copy. At that point, it's all AI. So I agree.
How is AI going to pick up the phone and talk to sources and get them on the record?
Dude, literally, yes.
There's
Google already has an AI.
There's no need. There's only one source. It's George Soros.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, AI already will answer the phone for you. Like Google's AI will like call a call center for you and hit all the menus and all of it.
And
like it's that terrifying. Like, everyone thinks that this is
pretend to
like the
care.
near future. We're already here.
And pretend to care, and then just do what Soros wants them to do anyway.
Can I do one? But I want.
I would love to hear
I
yours.
want the
I would
graphic.
love to
Yeah,
hear
let's
yours.
see, let's see the
I would love
story
to
of,
hear it.
of the journo.
I want the graphic pulled up because you got to look at her to really sort of take it all in. I agree with you that she's some sort of a Midwestern suburban gal, a nuclear family, where she went off to some kind of a state school, wasn't particularly in the top of her class in high school, so she's at a state school.
Yeah, same.
Joined a sorority shortly thereafter, had a lot of things to apologize for, was real afraid of letting her dad down, but really buckled down and has some bandwidth out there, but what she really gets by on is her charm, and she's also pretty attractive, right? So she goes to her first job interview. It's probably at a cable news network somewhere. She's instantly a hit there because she kind of works hard and she looks great and she's got all kinds of different interests in the business writ large. Works her way up. They throw her on air. She doesn't do a terrible job. She's got a real vacant hole in her life. She's concerned about
Where is this going?
Sort of the vacancy that she's got in her overall aim in life because all she's doing is repeating like you say, baseless talking points from people who don't know shit about shit, and she's now understood that. So she's, I don't know, this is not I'm guessing 35?
Let's go.
Don't you think?
50. Bro.
So she's beginning to concern herself with a little bit about world events and wondered what she got herself into. And so she's married a professional athlete or some kind of a
kicker.
Star of some kind.
Nah,
Somebody
it's a
whose
kicker,
name
bro.
you recognize in public squares somewhere, and has tried to sort of bury herself under the family rubric to not have to think a lot about what it is that she's doing for a living. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think spot on.
I love how this is probably the meanest segment we've ever done.
We did a mean segment.
Like, a lot of people we know are going to hear that, and they're going to be so mad. But if
It's a
you're mad
mean
about that, it's because you fucked up. That's the meanest segment ever. I love it. That could be our finest.
I had to do it.
Ashbrook's buddies are going to be
Yeah,
very
they're going to
angry.
call him,
they're gonna
and they're going to be like, the
so
mean shit
much-
that Smug and Holmes said about me.
I'm gonna say so. The problem is that there's a whole bunch of people who will take offense to that who shouldn't, because I don't find in that category. But there's an awful lot who do.
And also, it's going to be
There's
telling.
an awful lot who do.
Ashbrook, I won't reveal on the show if you tell me who will text you angry.
I won't tell you.
Let's play a game.
Let's play a game.
It's Thursday, so we do King of the Hill.
We do, and I have the defending champion, Sherry Jacobus. Who are you bringing to the table?
Whew. You know, I thought long and hard about this because I've had a couple of weeks to sort of recharge the battery on what we're doing on King of the Hill and just kind of think about sort of how I want to start the new year. But the thing is that Matt Dowd, for me, is the guy, right? I mean, there's nobody I've won more with.
Yeah.
There's nobody who I feel more confident playing. I want to start out for the big win. I'm going with Matt Dowd.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, let's go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the blue corner, fighting out of an empty campaign office in Texas, Matthew Mail Pattern Dowd. And now, in the red corner, hiding out of her own Twitter account, and current champion of the world, Kami Cherry Jacobus.
This is a hell of a matchup.
Oh, it
hell of a
really
matchup to
is.
start the year with. I mean, this is Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, I'd normally agree with you, but
Really?
Sherry had a busy holiday break.
Oh, no.
Oh man.
Wait.
I'm calling my shot.
Am I the judge here?
You're the judge.
You're the
I'm
judge.
the bailiff.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the judge, Ashbrook, and I'm just gonna go ahead and Babe Ruth this thing. And I'm calling a 2-round knockout.
Okay.
Wow.
No.
Okay, to play first. Nikki, can I get exhibit number 6? So this is on Trump, questioning immunity, presidential immunity, in the Jack Smith case. Sherry Jacobus writes, "If Trump is granted presidential immunity, then it means Biden also has presidential immunity. He can refuse to leave office, remain there with the intention of not ceding that space until Trump is incapacitated or dies. Biden can even step aside, and VP Harris becomes president." So she's saying that they need to do what she thinks Trump did, I guess, in 2020 and refused to leave, and that is good, and that not only could Biden do that, he could then also step aside and Kamala Harris could become president.
That's such a
Counselor,
great take.
Hold on.
could
Can I interject?
Well, hold on. Why don't you read your take?
No, I'd like to just interject. I think you'll be pleased.
I'm.
What I'd like to do is concede the round.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is concede the round. Nothing I can say, or more importantly, Matt Dowd can say, could ever begin to stop the precedent-setting nature of that take. That is amazing.
I think that's a first on King of the Hill, and I think it's super smart.
No,
why fire off one of your nukes when they can't compete?
I can't. I don't want to. And
that's smart.
And what we're dealing with there is unprecedented.
It's outstanding gamesmanship.
Thank you, Counselor. First round to Jacobus.
I'll take up second round, which I think is a very worthy take. He's talking about Nikki Haley.
Mm-hmm. What exhibit number?
This is exhibit number 12. And this is, of course, in reference to the controversy about comments that she made in New Hampshire, where she was asked something about slavery, sort of danced around it. And of course, mainstream media made a thing out of it because, of course, it's a race issue, so we've got to deal with it. Here's Dowd. Haley was the governor of South Carolina. She calls it home. South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union and was one of the founding member states of the Confederacy, and stated at the time of secession that slavery was the reason her answer shows that she's as bad as Trump.
This is so validating.
Oh, it's just so good. It's so good for so many reasons. The first of which is, of course, our ongoing take here that any Republican, if they are a threat to Democrats, are as bad as Trump, and that's just like their thing. But second of all, the idea that a mere residents within South Carolina, mind you, this is the first woman, first person who actually banned a Confederate flag as being the state flag, is somehow subservient to the historical nature of her state, in which it was the first one to secede. So,
Counselor, I wonder if you might tell the court what time of day that was tweeted.
Bright and early, Johnny. It was 8:37 a.m. Just a couple of days, December 28th. So as most of us are thinking about sort of trying to figure out what to do with Christmas presents, Matt Dowd was up talking about slavery.
Thank you. Okay, Michael?
Nikki,
What exhibit is this?
Nikki, can I get exhibit number 1, please? Sherry Jacobus writes, where would we be right now if we'd immediately been told Trump stole, parenthetical, and likely sold/bartered, thousands of top secret and classified documents and laid them out in a Mar-a-Lago ballroom so Putin's guys had access? Something tells me Ivana would still be alive.
Wow, bro. Oh my God. Dude.
The last line takes this from your
Holy shit, dude.
your usual Sherry Jacobus conspiracy theory into another level where now the raid on Mar-a-Lago, it happened because he was selling the secrets to Putin, and because he was doing that, they killed Ivana Trump.
Bro, I want that tweet on a shirt.
I really wanted a third round, fellas.
That was so hard.
I really, really wanted a third round, and Dowd did everything he
God,
could.
Dude.
Dowd did everything he could to try to get there. But Ivana Trump dying because of a Putin-connected Trump docs thing at Mar-a-Lago?
No. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Get out of here.
It is what it is. I can't believe that...
What did I say?
What do you think she's been up to?
That
over the
is
called my
holidays,
shot.
huh?
I called
So
my shot.
awesome.
I called it.
I mean, with nukes like that, I can't believe you weren't prancing around this office all day.
That is amazing.
I don't even know where to begin. There's nothing that I don't think any of our other competitors have ever said that matches.
That
those two.
could be the all-time greatest.
It could be.
She's really on a hot streak. This
Oh
this is 4 in a row. Do I have to retire her?
Wow.
I mean, we should talk about maybe we'll get a listener vote.
Okay.
Maybe
That's
we'll get
a
a
good
listener
question.
vote
Holy moly.
because this is a heater the likes of which we have not seen.
I mean, good God.
Well, now that we've offended absolutely everybody and crowned a new victor, fellas, I feel like we've done it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode, gentlemen. Again, thank you so much to the Minions. Subscribe on YouTube if you have not yet. Get ready for all the treats we have coming in the new year. So, until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.